V13, Chronicle of a Trial, consists of columns that Emmanuel Carrère wrote for L'Aub's magazine every week from 2nd September 2021 to 7th July 2022, and were reprinted in La Repubblica in Italy, El País in Spain, and La Temps in Switzerland. The columns cover the 9-month trial of the 20 people arrested for taking part in, aiding and/or abetting the Paris attacks of 13th November 2015. Known as the worst attack on French soil during peacetime, 3 suicide bombers showed up around 9 p.m. outside the Stade de France stadium, where a football match between France and Germany was being held, with the French president in attendance. Around the same time, in another part of Paris, 3 Kalashnikov-bearing militants, 2 of whom were wearing suicide belts and vests, fired indiscriminately at people sitting in cafes, including La Caroline, La Petite Cambouge, La Belle Équipe, and restaurants near Rue Fontaine-aux-Rouilles and Boulevard Voltaire. The third team of militants went to Bataclan Concert Hall and started shooting at people watching a live performance by band Eagles of Death Metal. 130, mostly young people, were killed and approximately 500 were injured, many severely because of the ball bearings in the bombs. In all these attacks, 7 militants blew themselves up on sight. 2 others died to avoid capture. The 2 surviving members who drove the actual killers to venues were put on trial. Most of these militants were French or Belgian, most of them born and raised in these 2 countries. They were children of non-white migrants. None of them was from a war-torn country or background. They hadn't suffered an injustice of an occupation or even an ethnic or religious discrimination. They belonged to working-class, middle-class families living in Belgium or France. Their families had work and housing and practiced nominal religious values. Like most boys their age, they were into clubbing, drinking, and girls. They had their entire lives ahead of them. However, all of the 11 involved are said to have become radicalized in a short span of a few years. Some of them started watching Islamic State videos in a Belgian cafe run by one of them. So much so that they left everything they had known to go and live in a section of land between Syria and Iraq that had been declared as an Islamic caliphate, at a time when Syria was in the throes of a civil war. Once in the caliphate, these boys became commandos and started beheading hostages.
في ليلة من الليال لست أدري ما تراني ظلمة تورمني يا رب الأرض ضاقت والسماء وقلبي ما رفض ضياء والدم
A year after the Paris attacks, other militants involved in organizing the Paris operation, such as the bomb maker, blew themselves up in Belgium on 22nd March 2016. 2 suicide bombers blew themselves up at Brussels Zaventem Airport, while the third one did it at Maelbeek metro station. 32 dead, 340 injured, the deadliest attacks ever committed in Belgium. As Carrère notes in this book, the Paris attacks trial started on 8 September 2021 in the front lobby of Palais de Justice in central Paris, where a windowless 7,000 square foot room with 600 people capacity had been built just for this purpose, costing the state 7 million euros. There's one presiding judge and 4 assisting judges, 1,800 plaintiffs expected to testify, all given half an hour to speak. To put it into context, in the first 5 weeks, 250 plaintiffs are heard. There are 350 lawyers representing the plaintiffs. Not all of them are present at the same time, but still a huge number. There is a matter of compensation for damages. There's also a matter of giving voice to the agony, pain, and confusion. 3 public prosecutors to steer the proceedings. The ones who did the actual killing are all dead, hence the defendants are called accomplices. 20 accomplices are on trial. 14 of these 20 defendants are in the dock, behind glass shield. The rest are outside the dock. All of them have their own counsels. 30 lawyers in total, present on all days. And journalists taking notes. All of this is being done under maximum security. Everything from the trauma of the survivors and the family members of the dead, the personality of the terrorists, their radicalization, their time in Syria, the preparation and execution of the attacks, the religious context, etc., are brought up in court and noted by Carrère. Why would French and Belgian boys go to such extreme lengths? Why didn't the intelligence and law enforcement officials in France and Belgium detect such a catastrophic attack before it was done, apart from the suspicious, frequent, multinational border crossings and suspicious purchases by would-be killers, despite having several of them on their radar? The suspicious role of a Brini who simply dropped the suicide bombers on site in Paris as well as Brussels. These are riddles with no satisfying resolution, and Carrère makes it a point to highlight all of them. There are a number of documentaries made on this particular attack and the boys who committed it, and I'm linking a few of them here. This book has been translated into English by John Lambert, who frequently translates Carrère's work. Carrère has included passages here that didn't make the cut under the 1,400 word count of the original columns. His writing is informative and descriptive, though he sounds as lost as the reader, and an intense doom clouds the passages. I myself am nauseated by many of them, including those given in the chapter titled Individuals Who Came From Nowhere, as well as the accounts of several survivors and what the attackers were up to in a cafe near Brussels and in the place called Al-Sham.
I heard there was a secret chord that David played and he pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do ya? And it goes like this: the forest, the fierce, the minor fall and major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
I'm reading a passage, the last passage of the book, in the chapter titled Allahu Akbar. It is about the Muslim mother of one of the murdered. In 2018, Nadia returned to Cairo, her hometown. The last time she had been there was in 2014 with Lamia. They had spent a quiet moment in Al-Azhar Park, near the mosque of the same name, known around the world as the heart of Sunni Islam. The sun was setting. The calls to prayer rose from the huge swarming city, the city of cities they both loved. They listened to the cries of Allahu Akbar in the golden sky. They felt at peace. 4 years later, Nadia sat alone for a long time in the place where they had sat together for a long time. She listened to the cries of Allahu Akbar rising from the huge swarming city and their echo in the golden sky. A policeman came up to tell her that the park was closing. She was the only one left. It was time to go. Nadia wanted to stay a little longer. The policeman insisted, but instead of obeying, she started to tell him in Arabic what had happened. The words came to her naturally, calmly, and as she spoke, she understood that it was essential, that it was the most important thing she could do, to tell this story in Arabic to an unknown Egyptian policeman. The policeman understood this too. At the end of the story, he said to Nadia, "Your daughter and the others are shaheed, martyrs," and to hear from the mouth of this Egyptian policeman that they were the martyrs and not the killers who attributed this dignity to themselves from the depths of their crass, manipulated ignorance. It was as if the world was falling back into place.